Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Speak with Purpose Coaching. My name is Mona. I am an emotional intelligence coach, and I am here today because I wanted to talk to you about one of the most juicy topics in the world of EQ, self-development, and coaching in general, and that is emotional triggers. Don't forget to subscribe and share your biggest takeaway in the comments below. Now, let's get into it. What is an emotional trigger? Emotional, as in our feeling, our inner state of feeling changes in an instant. Trigger is the button that gets pushed that's responsible for changing our emotional state. Now, I'm sure you can see why understanding your own triggers, we all have them, and being aware of them can become extremely helpful and is a step that cannot be skipped if you want to be self-aware and if you want to be able to communicate in a way that is loving towards yourself and respectful towards all involved. The button that triggers our emotions to regress into a state that was experienced in the past. Now, what I want to clarify here is emotional triggers are not bad. They're not wrong. They are, in fact, a very natural defense mechanism of our nervous system. It's actually a brilliant protective mechanism. So I don't want you to judge yourself for being triggered. However, there is huge value in understanding our triggers because the one thing that triggers have in common, they come from a past experience. And so when that past experience occurred, there's a part of us that got stuck there, that got stuck in that moment. And with that part that got stuck in that moment, there's also life force energy that that part carries. And so it's very important to know our triggers so that we can connect with those parts of ourselves and bring them into current reality. If you want to dive deeper on this, you can go to my website and learn more, www.speakwithpurposecoaching.com. I wanted to give you a step-by-step guide on how to identify your emotional triggers. So step number one, pay attention to your emotional and physical responses. What does this mean? The first sign that you've been triggered is often a shift in your internal state. We feel hijacked. Now, don't ignore these signals, okay? They are your body telling you something important. These emotional and physical responses can be things as sudden, intense feelings of anger, sadness, anxiety, frustration, shame, fear. They're sudden. It's like everything's fine, and then all of a sudden you're angry. And it's like, what happened, right? Or maybe something happened. What matters is we orient internally. And so, okay, sudden, intense feelings. Other emotional changes can manifest as feelings of overwhelm or shutdown, an urge to lash out, an urge to withdraw, or an urge to escape. These are trauma responses. Fight or flight gets activated. Again, very normal and natural response. Another way in which triggers manifest is physical sensation. So heart is pounding rapidly, rapid breathing, tense muscles, especially fists, jaw, and shoulders. Sweaty palms, upset stomach, shakiness, dizziness, a hot feeling in your face or chest, or a cold sensation of numbness. Now, when you notice these shifts, I want you to pause and take a deep breath and acknowledge that you're feeling these things without judging them. Okay, step number two, retrace your steps. What just happened? So once you've identified that you're having a strong emotional or physical reaction, rewind. What happened immediately before you felt this way? So sometimes it could be a situation where someone said something, a particular word, a particular phrase, particular tone of voice. You saw something, a facial expression, a gesture, a scene. You heard something, specific sound, a song. You smelled something. And what was the overall environment like? Was it crowded? Was it loud? Was it quiet? Was it chaotic? So I want to give you an example. I was sitting outside the other day and just enjoying my cup of coffee. And before you know it, a fox came around the house, and I was face to face with a fox. It was maybe 10 feet away, came out of nowhere. So I noticed my body went into a freeze response. Immediate trigger. I sat there, didn't move, so it activates the stand still so that the predator, in this case the fox, doesn't perceive you as a threat. Then their nervous system calms down and they're not going to attack me. Okay, but this is why I'm saying it's very natural. Now, what happened? The fox just looked at me and walked away, and no animals or humans were harmed in the making of this video or in this trigger, but it's a very obvious example. And why I don't want you to judge your triggers, but it's very important to notice them so that we can address them. Another part of retracing your steps and what just happened is, what are your internal thoughts? So what thoughts popped into your head just before the emotion hit? Were they self-critical, judgmental, catastrophical? So for me with the fox, when I retrace my steps, right before I went into freeze, my thoughts were, oh shit. Okay, so that means danger. So my system perceived that as a threat, as a danger, and went into what the natural response for me is in the face of a threat, which is a freeze. Yours might be a fight or run away, but this is how we get to understand ourselves and learn our triggers. What to do while you're going through this process, and be a neutral observer. So don't immediately jump to a conclusion. Just gather the facts. Now, step number 3, start a trigger journal. This is perhaps the most effective tool for identifying patterns over time, because consistent tracking will reveal common elements, themes that you might otherwise miss. So for each instance of a strong emotional reaction, just note down the day and time when it happened, a brief description of the situation, what specific event was the trigger. So essentially, what's the button that sets it into motion? Your emotional response to it. So in my case, I know it was my freeze response got activated. In your case, it could be intense anger, deep sadness, sudden anxiety. How strong was it on a scale of 1 to 10? Your physical response, what did you feel in your body? Tight chest, pounding heart. For me, I could just feel cold. Normal for the freeze response, because when the body goes into freeze, it slows down the heart rate, it makes the body temperature go down so that the threat can perceive us as being dead, right? It's like playing dead in front of the bear. It's such a beautiful way to discover ourselves, right? Now, you also want to think about the possible roots or connections. So this is a reflection, and this is where you connect the dots. Does this situation remind you of anything from your past? Does it touch on a core belief? I'm not safe. I'm being controlled. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm bad. I can't do no right. So in my particular case, it brought me back to an experience I had as a child when we were at the cottage in the mountains, and we had to go with a little bucket to get water from a stream. And there was a bear that was just walking across the street. And so it was very unexpected, and it scared me. And I remember myself just stopping and just not even breathing, not even moving. Seeing the fox, it just brought me back to that exact moment. And I know that. This is how I know that wild animals may trigger my freeze response. And that's it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not wrong. It's not bad. It's not amazing. It just is. So after we've done the first 3 steps, comes step number 4, which is look for patterns and themes. So after a few days or weeks of journaling, review your entries. And what is very likely to happen is that you're going to have reoccurring triggers. So if you notice the same situations, the same people, the same types of comments appearing repeatedly, the same thoughts, core emotions, is there a primary emotion that frequently gets triggered? Is it anger? Is it shame? Is it anxiety? Underlying beliefs. So, do your reactions often stem from fears of rejection, of abandonment, of failure, or perhaps the other end of the spectrum, fear of being controlled or being misunderstood? These often link back to unhelpful core beliefs that were formed earlier in life. And when it comes to these core beliefs, they are many times unconscious, and it's very, very difficult to bring them to awareness. And it's not something that we can do alone because they're hidden. So that's why they're called blind spots. Nevertheless, we have the ability to identify them and then seek support as we need to. And then the final step, step 5, is going to be a gentle exploration of the why. So once you've identified a pattern, you can start to gently explore the root cause. Often, current triggers are linked to past experiences, especially unresolved trauma or formative moments where negative beliefs were established. So in my case, when I was 12 years old and I saw the bear, my 12-year-old self made a conclusion, which is wild animals are unsafe. Then it made it bigger. The wilderness itself is unsafe. And you know what? There's some truth to that, right? But does that mean that I hide and I don't go in nature? No, because I've integrated with that part of myself. And what does it mean to integrate that part into my current life is I sat with it, I acknowledged my fear, I never made it wrong. And slowly over time, it's like taking that little 12-year-old me by the hand and going for a walk. And when she signals that, okay, I don't want to go deeper, this is too much, too soon, too fast, okay. So it's a process, it's a journey. Unmet needs. So is there an underlying need that isn't being met? So in my case, I was with other kids when this happened. So there was no adult around to protect us. So it triggers that unmet need where in face of a danger as a child, you expect an adult to protect you. And then now I am that adult for that part of myself. Does that make sense? Let me know in the comments if this is landing. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Let me know in the comments. This is very important and it's very enlightening. Once you actually get to understand and accept these things about yourself, you can easily communicate them, right? So in conclusion, the self-exploration can be challenging. So consider seeking support from a therapist or a counselor if you want to get to the root cause of the trauma and have your blind spots lovingly exposed. Reach out to me and I'm happy to set up a preliminary consultation. But this is the path that is needed. There's a safe space that's needed and then tools for deeper healing. I hope this helped and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Bye for now.